This is the Derya TM-22 lever action. This is a bit of a departure from Derya's other TM-22 firearms, notably that it is not semi-automatic, and it's been out for about a year, 6 months to a year, but they first showed it off well over a year ago. I believe it was at IWA in 2023, maybe even 2022? I can't remember exactly. This is a gun that I've wanted to get my hands on for a long time, but I just never really found the time to do it. Now I have the time to do it, and it is weird. In so many ways, it is weird. First, let's go over the features of the rifle. Starting with the stock, you have a sling swivel. Well, it's not really a sling swivel, it's more of a sling loop. You have an adjustable cheek riser. This is the same that is found on basically all of Derya's stocks, except they have modified it for this. And of course, this is all polymer. You have your sling loop and your rear grip. Now, I put hockey tape on it. The hockey tape is indeed back, because this plastic is not very grippy in the slightest. It's the exact same as the plastic on the forend. You can kind of see how there's a bit of texture on some of the plate pieces. It's the same as the texture here. The best way to describe it is as a Glock Gen 2 texture. If you've ever held a Gen 2 Glock, you know that it sucks. There is no grip to it whatsoever, so you basically need to put some kind of tape or something or wear gloves in order to use this to the maximum capability. They did not do a good job on the texturing for the stock. Now, as you can see, there is one safety device, and that is this loop safety, which, when depressed, moves out of the way and allows the trigger to be fired. I have a problem with this, and we'll get back to it later in the video. You have an exposed hammer that can be decocked, but I warn you, it is very tricky because of the depressed thing here. It makes it a little bit awkward to do, especially at the angle that I'm doing it, right? But the knurling on this is great for pulling back, not very good for letting forward. The magazine release is in a very nice position when your hand is closed. Now, as you can see, easily pops out the mag, and it is using the original style of magazines where it is locking into this little nub here. And it is not ambidextrous. It is one side only. But it does work pretty well, and I wouldn't be too annoyed if I was left-handed, simply because you can easily do this and just press down here to release the magazine. So it's not that bad. That's not it with the magazine. TM-22 mags are known for having a last round hold open that lands on the magazine, and this is no different. The magazine will hold open on the final round until you release the magazine, draw it out, and close the bolt. On one hand, it's a nice feature, especially for a .22 caliber rifle, because then you're not dry firing when you're out of ammo, so that's nice. On the other hand, it is quite awkward to unload the magazine when this is fully extended. So for example, when you're holding the lever normally, you have easy access to the mag release, it easily pops out. However, when you're out of ammo and you pull back and then you're like, oh, I need to reload, you have two options. Either you can come back to the grip without the loop and drop the mag, or the other option is for you to keep your hands in the loop, use your thumb, drop the mag. Again, not a great solution. And when you go to reload, you drop the mag, you pull it out, you put in a new one. Well, now your lever is out here in the middle of nowhere. Let's say you put in a new mag. You can't just close it up again. You have to open it back up and then close it. It is not the end of the world at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't want this to get blown out of proportion, but it is very strange and a little bit annoying. Ultimately, it will just come down to whether or not you can deal with the manual of arms when you get used to it. Now, taking a look on top, this is the first really big miss of this rifle. As you can see, there is a Picatinny section, but it is only on the very front of the barrel, or I guess rear of the barrel. And there is this blank space all along the top. This is a totally missed opportunity, and it's really sad because there is very obviously enough space to put a Picatinny mount here. Yes, it would have been very slightly higher height over bore than what you're getting right here, but who cares, because you include a cheek riser. So it doesn't matter. And because the Picatinny is so far forward, you now can't put any scopes on here, unless you put 2 rings on the front of a scope and have it dangling off the back, which is not ideal. Or you took a canted mount, turned it around, and then put the scope on it. It's really unfortunate that they did it this way. This would have been an awesome rifle to have a cheap LPVO on. Just a 1-4X, it would have been really cool to have. But without it, it means you're stuck with red dots. And not even all prisms either, because if the eye relief is, prism dots typically will have a closer eye relief, especially if they're magnified, so you can't really even use prisms. This is a 1X, almost exclusively a 1X type of rifle, which really limits its ability. Moving forward, you have a fake magazine tube, which is pretty strange. I suspect the reason they used a fake magazine tube is because they either used some designs that already existed, or they took this off the shelf and they wanted to use this handguard and they needed a tube to do it. There is also the aesthetic reason. It would look kind of weird for a lever gun to not have a tube, but my retort would be just put an extra long handguard and cover it up. That would have been an option, but they decided not to go that way. The handguard itself is again that slippery polymer, and sadly you have no M-lock. I really love using foregrips on lever guns. It's kind of stupid, but I really love doing it, and sadly you can't really do it with this one. And you do have a sling loop at the front. Now at the front of the gun you have your sight post, which is removable with a little flathead screwdriver, and you have a 1/2x28 threaded barrel. This one is just a linear comp. And finally, we'll do a test on the trigger pull weight. Right above 4.5 pounds, which from my experience is pretty accurate. So what's it like to shoot the TM-22 lever action? This gun when it first came out, was known for having misfires all the time in the form of light strikes. I was wondering if they had fixed the problem, and when I got out to the range, I was a little bit disappointed in that they had not fixed the problem. You'll notice in a lot of the footage that I do have some light strikes, and then I have jams that follow it. So what ends up happening is that a light strike will occur, you will go to cycle the action, and then it will get jammed up because the extractor didn't pick up the round. Now I suspect the reason this is because of the design they went with for the bolt. Now this is not going to be picked up on camera, so I'm not even going to bother trying. There's a tiny bit of a gap between the bolt and the chamber. It is barely anything. It's kind of like a chamber check. My assumption is that once the round is fired, it is able to latch on to that extractor. Maybe it's just like a hair of a millimeter or something, and it's able to extract the case, because I never had a failure to extract on a spent casing. It was only on casings I had misfires. And so I went with that for the range day until we got to the end and I tried a few different types of ammo. So I was having misfires with Aguila Super Extra, not the very highest end stuff, but like the normal higher velocity stuff. I tried CCI Minimags and I tried Federal Automatch. I didn't have a single misfire with either of those. And on the day, it was about -10 to -15 Celsius. And I suspect that the extra misfires that I was experiencing could have been due to the ammo and the temperature, a combination of the two. Because for me not to have any misfires on the other ammo, but have them all on the Aguila Super Extra, tells me that, okay, maybe they did actually fix the light strike problem. And if that's the case, that the light strike problem has been fixed, or at the very least that it's just really picky with ammo, and when you find the right ammo, it works all the time, then this becomes a lot more appealing. I want to talk about this safety. I am not a fan of this safety at all. I get the point of the safety because there's no other safety on the gun. I would have much rather they implemented a half cock than whatever this is. This safety is heavy enough that it is more difficult to fire off rapid shots than it should be. You always have to squeeze it slightly harder than you think, which throws off your aim just a little bit. And as well, this gap will get stuff caught in it. If your gloves are not super tight fitting, right? If they're not the perfect size, if they're a little oversized, or if they're a bit puffier because maybe it's really cold out, they could easily get stuck in here, which is a really weird feeling. And if they get stuck in here before you pull the trigger, it makes the depression much more difficult because now you're having to push out glove, right? You're having to compress the glove as well as the spring. But I think the best option would be a half cock. Half cock with none of this would make it a super smooth lever action. Sadly, they didn't do that. So who is this gun for? This gun is for a wide range of people, but in limited application. And that limited application is entirely due to the Picatinny. I am so disappointed that there's no full-length Picatinny because it really limits what this gun can be used for and who might want to buy it. So with the way that it is right now, I would say this gun is for basically everyone except those of you who might want to use a gun like this for medium to long-ish range varmint hunting or pest control. Personally, if it were me, if I'm doing those activities, I would want a slightly magnified scope. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could just be like a 3x, but I'd want that extra magnification just to be sure that I'm going to get the shot. It's not to say that it can't be used for it. It absolutely could. It's just not ideal. What's also worth noting is that this is not a replacement for something like the TM-22 Standard or the TM-22 Feather, which I've done reviews on before. Because this is a metal-framed receiver, it is much heavier than the other ones. It's not a heavy gun by any stretch of the imagination, but it's heavy enough that this is not a rifle that I could recommend for training youth. I think there are better rifles, lever actions for training youth that are made specifically for youth for that reason. So this is not one of those. But for everyone else, this is a great rifle to take to the range, to have some fun with, to shoot some steel. If you really wanted to, I think this would be a really fun steel challenge rifle. If there was a manual action division in your area, or if there's a lever action division specifically, this would be a great rifle for steel challenge. It'd be really fun. And it would also be really fun for any other competition where you're shooting within, 22LR distances. So I would say generally that's within 50 meters, normally within 35 meters. Any manual action division of 22LR, this would be great for. Yes, the trigger safety is a bit annoying, and the mag release is a little bit slower, but it's a lot faster than loading a tube, so there's that going for it. That is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I've got one more TM-22 video coming on the way, and as a bit of a teaser, it will be using this. So keep an eye out for that sometime in the next few weeks. I'm not going to say exactly when because I don't know exactly when, but sometime in the next few weeks. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.